Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's talk. Today, we'll be talking about a very interesting application of autonomous vehicles, which is related to identification of very thin cross section objects. So, let's get started with today's talk. Before we dive deep, a little introduction about myself. I work as a data engineer at Kutu.ai in Bangalore, India, and I love participating in hackathons and have bagged a couple of prizes at Microsoft, American Express, Sabre, and Mercedes. I'm also a Women Tech Network ambassador, a podcast host, and also a technical writer at Omnena. So let's begin. So before we start, let's get clear of what we are going to talk about today. So the whole objective is to talk about a network and a methodology that I used to recognize thin cross section objects, which are certainly pedestrians and bicyclists, and which constantly change their direction. So, if you talk about RGB and LiDAR based applications, they fall short while identifying these. And what would we be talking about mainly is describing the problem at hand. And what are we going to do about it? Weren't the autonomous driving cars good already? And what's the deal about thermal images? And we'll also be discussing about the network that I used, what worked, what did not work, how I leveraged, the technology of GANs to augment data for myself. We'll also be looking at a demonstration of RGB versus thermal, and we'll be closing the session with the final thoughts on the challenges faced and what is the future scope for this problem. So, we now know what the problem actually is at hand. We want to ensure a more robust and reliable identification of pedestrians and cyclists because we have all seen in the news a lot of news about some autonomous car ramming into pedestrians or spuriously detecting them as paper. We've also seen a couple of them being not being very robust in identifying people with a darker skin. So there have been a lot of fallacies around these kind of objects which have a very thin cross section, and that's what the whole idea of this talk is about. And if we also look at certain numbers, most of these fatalities that have occurred have been during the night. That means it has been when there have been low light. So that's the reason why these kind of existing technologies like LiDAR, RGB images are just not enough. And that's the reason why the autonomous industry needs to no longer remain oblivious to these technologies. Now, just to illustrate what we are actually talking about, is bicycles are actually considered the most difficult detection problem that any autonomous vehicle systems face. And definitely the unmanned vehicles which are there on the road cannot just rely on those visible images when the weather conditions are not favorable, or if there's too much sun glare or there's too much fog outside. So we definitely are looking for a solution. As I just told you, it's actually done using RGB and LiDAR. There are multiple RGB cameras to capture stereoscopic images. And we have already discussed that RGB cameras comes with their own set of challenges and problems. Just using the RGB images is going to pose challenges when the weather is not favorable. Coming to LiDAR, the data can be too coarse from the sensor to actually identify objects that are at a farther distance, especially pedestrians and bicyclists. And that's why it may lack that kind of resolution which is required to identify those objects. What do we do about it? So, this is what I was just talking about. So, camera view, LiDAR view is going to give us a composite view. So, you can actually see that the data points are actually really coarse. So, when the changing world is really difficult, we change ourselves, we mend our ways. So, that's what we do. We actually use thermal images. Now, I just discussed briefly that 75% of the deaths caused by autonomous vehicles were during the dark times, which is a clear indication that in very challenging environments, visual images fail to identify all kinds of objects that are at hand. So the FLIR dataset is basically a collection of thermal images, and it is going to help us in detecting a lot of different objects and classifying them, like pedestrians, bicyclists, in extreme weather and clement weather conditions like smoke, glare, and also total darkness. The second most important thing is that it is going to provide us a lot of supplemented data set beyond just what LiDAR and visual images or even radar can provide. So what we are essentially getting is a lot of augmentation of existing data. And the third most important thing, which was also a drawback for LiDAR, is 4 times farther range than the typical headlights. So that gives the algorithm running on top of this identification system more and more time to take a decision in which direction to steer the car and prevent more such kind of fallacies where a pedestrian is just missed or hit. Moving forward, what does the architecture for the proposed solution look like? So we have a car, we have a thermal camera which is going to capture images, and the stream of images is going to be sent as input to a CNN based network, which we'll be coming to in detail in the next few slides. And that stream of thermal images is outputted basis which the application needs to decide what the car needs to do. Does it need to go forward? Does it need to put a brake? Or does it need to steer away in left or right? So we've talked enough about how it's done, what it does. Now let's start looking at each of the components in greater detail. So that's how the data set looks like. For you and me, it couldn't make much sense, but for the autonomous driving system and for the networks we have in place, it makes utmost sense. And let me show you why. So if you look at this left images, you cannot actually see there's someone behind the fog. But if you look at its equivalent thermal images, you can actually see there's a man. So a pedestrian is actually obscured by the fog. So if we were using just the RGB and LiDAR based system, we could have actually rammed into this passenger. So that's why it is better than the existing solution. Also, to emphasize more on that, here a pedestrian is obscured by smog. Even you and me couldn't have actually seen this man behind the smog. And that's where FLIR dataset or thermal images become really, really important, because you can see things which a normal human eye also couldn't have seen. Now, we have seen the advantages. Now let's move forward towards what is the approach that was used to build this network. Now, the whole idea of developing a model which uses both the thermal images and RGB images was to develop something kind of like a pseudo multimodal data set, where we use both RGB images because it comes with a lot of rich data from 3 different streams, and thermal images, which is going to act like a supplement to that already existing information. So I'll just quickly brief, and then we'll discuss each of the component in detail. First and foremost thing was enhancing the edges using the Butterworth high pass filter, because we wanted a little bit sharper image. The second thing was to have 2 parallel networks, one that was pre-trained on RGB network based on the Pascal VOC set, and the second was a pre-trained network that was initialized with a FLIR data set. And both of these networks were followed by a faster RCNN-based network, which do the job of the region proposal network at essentially identifying the bounding boxes that are there. So I know that was a lot of information, but since we have 2 parallel networks, one would assume, where would we get that kind of data from? Does that kind of a multimodal data set exist? So data preparation part was a really important step in the designing of this kind of a network. So we had FLIR data set at hand, and we do have a huge amount of RGB images that are available. Idea was to get corresponding RGB image as well without the existence of any paired multimodal data set. So what we used is a cycle GAN, which does image to image translation. So for every thermal image that is fed into the network, a cycle GAN network translates and gives us a pseudo RGB image. I mean, it's not as good as the quality that we get in Pascal VOC and MS COCO dataset, but yeah, it does the job. And it actually gives a very high accuracy when it is compared to the baseline networks. So that's how the networks look like. So we have two parallel networks running. First one is a ResNet or YOLO v3 based convolutional network. Second one is also a PVOC and YOLO v3 based network. Now, the first one, which is this, is pre-trained or initialized with the RGB dataset based weights, and the one highlighted in green is initialized with FLIR dataset based weights. Now, after this step, both of these features are stacked together. Then they are passed through the 1x1 convolution layer, which is then fed into our ROI detector, which is nothing but a faster RCNN based network. And this entire network together forms our multimodal, or I would say a pseudo multimodal network, because we are actually not dependent on these images to be paired together. So the beauty of this network is that you can actually use any kind of CNN network in tandem with this particular network, because on its own also, it is capable of identifying the objects that are car or a pedestrian or a bicycle. But addition of RGB images is something which is going to give a lot of rich data related to the objects that are there in picture. Now, one would essentially want to ask, why just ResNet 101? Or why just YOLO v3? Why not any other network? And I've actually answered the question, but to reiterate on it, you can actually use possibly any network that does the job of classification. And the reason for using classification network is basically that first thing, that ResNet 101 are something which gain a lot of accuracy as we go on increasing the depth of the network. And you can use YOLO v3 if you're looking for a very fast network at runtime, and ResNet 101 if you're looking for more accuracy. So that's why you can actually go for any network that does this kind of classification or object detection. So we now understand the usage, right? We have an input stream. We have a beautiful multimodal model performing for us. And then there is an output stream, which is essentially thermal images along with its identification. So now we know how our solution actually works. Now it's time to look at it in action. Before we go there, let's just see a quick comparison of how the baseline performs in comparison to the network proposed. So if you see the comparison of images, third and fourth, you will see that there are more number of identifications in the proposed network compared to the baseline network, which is nothing but a faster RCNN based approach that uses just the thermal images. Let's dive into the demo. So first, we are actually going to look at the ground truth of how it looks like. So this is how the actual predictions should be, or the detections should be. Next, we are going to see how the results would have been if we had just used the RGB as input. I'm going to stop it over here. And let's look at the RGB output. We are just streaming the results from the videos. So if you see, there are either a lot of spurious detections or not all bicycles are identified. So if I go ahead frame by frame, you'll see that, let's say, this pedestrian is actually missed, or there are some random bicycle identifications, which we actually do not want. So let's go and look at the thermal output. If we look at the thermal output, we'll see that first thing, the predictions are done with higher confidence. Second thing is that more number of pedestrians and bicycles are identified. And if we try to iterate over it frame by frame, we can see that more number of bicyclists, person over the bicyclist are identified, and even at a greater distance as compared to RGB. Having looked at that, let's jump back to where we had left. So we were comparing the baseline versus our results. Let's just look at one of the examples from the results. So this is the ground truth. And if we see the output from RGB, so you'll see that the weather is not the ideal situation for any autonomous vehicle. And definitely there are some missed identifications like a bicyclist and some people over the left side. When it comes to thermal images, we clearly see that the bicycle at a very great distance, more number of people, more number of cars are identified when thermal images along with RGB are fed into the network. And all of these results are being compared on YOLO V3 network. And just to give you a continuous flow, this is the input, this is the baseline result, and this is our results. So in the upper image, you'll see that there are definitely more number of people being identified. Same goes and for the second image also. Having seen the results and even the demo, we do understand that there is a great deal of improvement that thermal images are bringing in, given the kind of advantages it has. Talking about a few numbers, object detection is generally measured using mean average precision, and the mean average precision over all the classes is 61.54, which is a great increase from the baseline. And a great thing is that even if we use just half of the FLIR data set along with its semi-translated RGB images, we still get an accuracy or mean average precision of 59.91, which is actually a great performance. And the whole agenda of doing and coming up with such a multimodal process of doing this was to identify bicycles and pedestrians in a more robust and reliable way. And we clearly see that there is a great increase in the average precision for bicycle and person class, even for the cars. But as we say that, each proposed approach is going to come in with its own set of challenges. So does this FLIR data set. So first and foremost thing is that when it's too hot, there is going to be merging of your foreground and your background, right? And when it comes to winters, there can be masking of your heat signatures because of the warm clothes you're wearing. And the third thing would be that there could be missed detections when there's heavy occlusion. Definitely, there can be missed, detections when there is heavy occlusion, but there's always a solution to each of the problems. But before we go and discuss the solutions for that, autonomous driving holds a lot of future scope. The first thing being, like we are identifying the objects, we can also detect the kind of terrain the car is going on so that we, have a better control over the speed and provide a great experience and smooth journey to the, to the user, because that's what the whole idea of developing autonomous car was. Second thing would be to add more categories for the thermal images data set and then analyze the network. Does it improve across all the categories? And third thing, which is a direct solution for the problem of occlusion, is to combine the optical flow information of cars, bicycles, or even animals, especially in the Indian cases, and to predict their motion trajectory. What we are essentially going to do is utilize the spatiotemporal information, where we are trying to understand that what would happen to their motion in the next 3 seconds or 4 seconds, so that the autonomous car can take a decision and steer away in that direction when it is not able to see the object clearly. And coming to how this entire network came out, what were the technologies used? It was mostly developed using Keras and TensorFlow, with OpenCV, Pandas, and NumPy being used for pre-processing and some kind of computations or algebraic operations. These are some of the references, especially for the data set and also for the baseline, which has been referred over here. And I hope you had a great deal of learning from what worked for me, what did not work for me, how I kind of utilized the concept of image translation to generate more data from what I already have, and it helps you out. For someone who's interested in delving deep into this topic, there's also a GitHub repository for the same. And I'm open to any questions that you have. In case I'm not able to answer your questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn, or you can also shoot up an email to me. I'll be happy to answer.